The security line at LAX moved like cold honey on a winter morning. Naomi Richardson's arms burned from carrying both 18-month-old twins for the past 20 minutes. Little Camden squirmed against her right shoulder, his sticky fingers tangled in her hair, while his sister Charlotte whimpered fitfully against her left side. The diaper bag kept sliding down Naomi's arm, and her boarding pass was clenched between her teeth because she'd run out of hands about 3 gates ago. She was trying to reach the metal detector when she saw him. 30 feet away, at the first-class check-in counter, stood her husband Marcus. His tall, athletic frame was unmistakable even from behind. That navy blue Tom Ford suit she'd had dry cleaned last week. Those Italian leather shoes he'd spent $800 on. That confident posture that had first attracted her 7 years ago at a mutual friends gallery opening. Relief crashed through her chest like a wave. He must have changed his mind about the business trip to Boston. He could help with the babies. Maybe he'd even decided to come with them to visit her mother in Miami. Maybe this meant he was trying. Maybe their marriage wasn't as broken as she'd feared. Have you ever had a moment where your entire world shifted in the space of a heartbeat? Have you ever discovered that the person you trusted most was living a double life right in front of your eyes? Have you ever felt the ground disappear beneath your feet while you were standing perfectly still? That is what happened to Naomi in the next 60 seconds. Before we go any further, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what you are about to hear is a story about betrayal, strength, and a woman who refused to be destroyed. Trust me, you will want to see how this ends. Naomi shifted Charlotte's weight and started walking toward Marcus, planning to surprise him. But as she got closer, her steps began to slow. A woman stood beside him. Not just any woman. This woman looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Long, honey-colored hair that caught the fluorescent airport lights and somehow made them look golden. A figure that belonged on runways. A silk cream-colored dress that probably cost more than Naomi's entire wardrobe. Designer sunglasses perched on top of her head. Skin that glowed with the kind of radiance that came from expensive facials and 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Everything Naomi no longer felt like after the difficult twin pregnancy that had wrecked her body and left her 40 pounds heavier and constantly exhausted. Marcus lifted the woman's designer luggage onto the scale with the same gentle care he used to show Naomi back when they were dating, back when he used to carry her bags and open her doors and look at her like she was the only woman in the world. The woman laughed at something he said. Her hand landed on his arm with casual intimacy, manicured fingers with perfect nude polish against the fabric of his suit jacket. The touch lasted 3 seconds too long to be professional. The angle of her body leaned into his personal space in a way that screamed familiarity. Naomi's stomach dropped. The woman turned slightly, giving Naomi a view of her profile. Beautiful. Young, maybe 26 or 27. Everything that Naomi felt she was not anymore. Everything that pregnancy and sleepless nights and postpartum depression had stolen from her. Then Marcus did something that made Naomi's breath catch in her throat. His hand moved to the small of the woman's back. His fingers splayed possessively across the silk fabric of her dress. It was the same exact gesture he used to make with Naomi, back when they were newlyweds, back when he could not keep his hands off her, back when he looked at her like she hung the moon and stars. Camden chose that precise moment to let out a wail that echoed through the terminal. The sound pierced through the ambient noise of rolling suitcases and departure announcements and hundreds of conversations happening simultaneously. Marcus's head snapped around. His eyes scanned the crowd with the sharp focus of someone who recognized that specific cry. They landed on Naomi, standing there, frozen 20 feet away, holding both of his children, staring at him with his hand on another woman's back. For one split second, his face went completely white. The color drained from his cheeks, like someone had pulled a plug. His eyes went wide. His mouth opened slightly. It was the face of a man caught, the face of someone whose secret just exploded in public. Then something shifted in his expression. Not guilt, not shame, not remorse. Annoyance. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at her the way you might look at a stranger making noise in a quiet restaurant. Irritated. Put out. Inconvenienced. The woman followed his gaze. Her eyes landed on Naomi, took in the crying twins, the disheveled hair, the milk stain on Naomi's shoulder, the bags under Naomi's eyes. Her perfectly painted lips formed a small letter O of surprise, but not the kind of surprise that suggested she did not know Marcus was married. This was the surprise of being caught, of having the abstract concept of his wife suddenly become a concrete person standing 15 feet away. She said something to Marcus. Naomi could not hear it over Camden's crying and the airport noise, but she could read the urgency in the woman's body language. Marcus shook his head and turned back to the counter, as if Naomi and the children were strangers who happened to be making noise nearby, as if his wife of 5 years and his 18-month-old twins did not exist, as if he could will them invisible by simply not acknowledging them. Naomi stood frozen in place. Time seemed to move like molasses. Charlotte had started crying now too, sensing her mother's distress the way babies do. The twins created a harmony of misery that made other travelers turn and stare. Some faces showed sympathy, others showed irritation at the noise. A few showed knowing recognition of what was clearly happening. All Naomi could see was Marcus's hand on that woman's back, the intimate way they stood together, the expensive diamond pendant around the woman's neck that caught the light. Naomi had never seen that necklace before, but she knew with absolute certainty that Marcus had bought it. She knew it the way you know things in your gut before your brain catches up. The woman glanced back at Naomi again. This time there was something calculating in her gaze, not sympathy for a struggling mother with crying babies. Assessment, measurement, like she was sizing up the competition and finding Naomi lacking, like she was the rightful owner of Marcus's attention and Naomi was the intruder in her relationship. Marcus finished the check in process. The ticket agent handed over boarding passes, 2 of them. He guided the woman toward the security line for first-class passengers with his hand still on her back. Proprietary, possessive, protective. He did not look back, not once, not even when Charlotte's cries reached a pitch that made several people cover their ears, not even when their daughter screamed for him the way she did every morning when he left for work. He just kept walking. Naomi finally found her voice somewhere deep in her chest, where shock was starting to transform into something harder and sharper. Marcus. He stopped walking, but did not turn around. The woman tugged on his arm, clearly wanting to keep moving, clearly not wanting a scene, but Naomi called his name again, louder this time, loud enough that people in the security line turned to look. When he finally faced her, his expression was cold in a way she had never seen before. Not in 7 years of knowing him, not in 5 years of marriage, not even during their worst arguments. "Sophia, what are you doing here?" The question hit her like a physical blow. What was she doing here? She was trying to save their marriage by giving him space. She was taking the children to visit her mother like she had told him about 3 days ago. She was hoping that distance might help them reconnect. She was being the understanding wife while he worked his supposed 80-hour weeks. But looking at him now, seeing the way he stood protectively close to this other woman, Naomi realized he did not want their marriage saved. "I am taking the children to see my mother," she managed to say. Her voice shook despite her best efforts to keep it steady. "Remember, I told you on Tuesday night, right before you said you had this critical business trip to Boston." He glanced at his watch, an expensive Rolex she had bought him for their 4th anniversary. "Well, we should probably get going. Our flight boards soon. Our flight, not his flight, their flight, together." The woman stepped forward, and Naomi got her first clear, unobstructed look at her. She was probably 26, maybe 27, perfect skin without a single line or blemish, the kind of figure that suggested expensive personal trainers and private chefs and hours at the gym. Perfectly applied makeup that looked natural but probably took 45 minutes. Designer clothes that fit like they were custom made. Everything about her screamed money and maintenance and youth. Everything Naomi used to be before marriage and motherhood had changed her priorities and her body and her entire life. "Marcus," the woman said. Her voice was honey-sweet with just a hint of impatience underneath. "We really should go through security." He nodded, already turning away from Naomi. "Take care of yourself, Sophia, and the kids." That was it. No explanation, no apology, no acknowledgement that he was detonating their family in the middle of an airport terminal. He simply walked away with his mistress, leaving Naomi standing there with 2 screaming babies and a heart that felt like it was being ripped out of her chest 1 beat at a time. But as she watched them disappear through the first-class security line, something hard and cold settled in her chest. Not just heartbreak, not just betrayal, something sharper and more focused, something that tasted like metal and felt like ice, and burned like fire all at once. Marcus thought he could discard her like yesterday's newspaper. He thought he could abandon his children for a younger model. He thought he held all the power because he had the money and the business and the connections. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Naomi shifted the twins in her arms, feeling her muscles scream in protest. She walked toward her own gate with new purpose. She had a phone call to make to her lawyer friend Simone. She had documents to gather. She had a war to plan. Marcus had made the biggest mistake of his life when he chose that woman over his family, and Naomi was going to make sure he paid for it in ways he never saw coming. The flight to Miami felt like the longest 3 hours of Naomi's life. She had managed to calm the twins with bottles and the snack packs she always carried. Camden fell asleep 20 minutes after takeoff, his little body going limp with the sudden weight of exhausted sleep. Charlotte fought it longer, whimpering and fussing, but eventually surrendered to sleep with her thumb in her mouth and her favorite blanket clutched against her chest. Naomi sat between them in the cramped economy seats Marcus had booked for her while he flew first class with his mistress. Her mind raced with questions that had no good answers. How long had the affair been going on? How had she missed the signs? Why had Marcus looked at her with such cold indifference, as if their 5 years of marriage meant absolutely nothing? She pulled out her phone once they reached cruising altitude. Her hands shook as she scrolled to Simone Patterson's number. Simone had been her college roommate before going to law school and, eventually specializing in family law. They had stayed close over the years, meeting for lunch once a month when their schedules allowed. Naomi typed out a text because she did not trust her voice not to break. Need to talk. Legal advice. Can you call me when I land? The response came back within 2 minutes. Of course. You okay? No. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I will call you at 7 tonight. Hang in there, sweetie. Naomi put her phone away and stared out the window at the clouds below. 30,000 feet up, everything looked peaceful, clean, simple. You could not see the mess and chaos and betrayal from up here. Her mother Patricia was waiting at baggage claim with open arms and a knowing look that suggested she had suspected something was wrong long before Naomi called from the plane. Baby girl, you look exhausted, Patricia said, taking Charlotte from Naomi's arms while Naomi wrestled with Camden and their carry-on bags. And not just tired from traveling. Naomi had inherited her mother's ability to read people, but right now, she felt like her intuition had completely failed her. I saw Marcus at the airport with another woman. Patricia's jaw tightened, but she did not look surprised. I wondered when you would figure it out. Naomi stopped walking, causing other passengers to flow around them like water around a rock. You knew. I suspected. Patricia adjusted Charlotte in her arms, swaying slightly in that automatic grandmother motion. The way he started traveling more, the way he stopped asking about the babies when I called. Men who are happy at home do not suddenly become distant from their children. Patricia led them toward the parking garage. Come on, let us get to the house. We have a lot to talk about. The drive to Patricia's comfortable suburban home should have been peaceful. The tree-lined streets and familiar neighborhoods of Naomi's childhood usually brought comfort, but today everything felt different, tainted, like she was seeing her whole life through a new lens that revealed ugly truths she had been blind to. How long do you think it has been going on? Naomi asked as they pulled into the driveway. Honey, that is not the right question. Patricia turned off the engine and faced her daughter. The right question is, what are you going to do about it? Inside the house, Naomi finally had a chance to process what she had seen. Patricia fed the twins and settled them for naps in the room that Patricia had converted into a nursery for their visits. The same room where Naomi had slept as a child. The same room where she had cried over high school breakups and college rejections and all the small heartbreaks that had seemed so enormous at the time. This heartbreak made all those others look like paper cuts. Naomi sat at the kitchen table where she had done homework as a child and tried to make sense of her marriage. The signs had been there. Marcus working until 9 or 10 every night. Weekend business trips that seemed to multiply. The way he had stopped touching her, stopped asking about her day, stopped engaging with Camden and Charlotte, beyond the bare minimum required of a father. But she had made excuses. The business was growing. He was under stress. New parenthood was hard on everyone. She had convinced herself they just needed to get through this rough patch. Her phone buzzed with a text message. Marcus. Hope you made it safely. We'll be out of town for a few days on business." The casual tone made her want to throw the phone across the room. No mention of what had happened at the airport. No acknowledgement that their marriage was in crisis. Just a polite message you would send to an acquaintance. Naomi stared at the message for a long time before typing back, "We need to talk when you get home." His response came immediately. "Sure, when I am back." No timeline, no urgency, no concern for what she might be feeling. That is when it truly hit her. Marcus was not conflicted about the affair. He was not struggling with guilt or trying to choose between two women. He had already made his choice, and it was not her. Patricia returned to the kitchen and poured 2 cups of coffee. "Rachel Torres called me back. She can see you tomorrow morning." Rachel Torres, the divorce attorney I mentioned, used to work at that big firm downtown before she started her own practice. She has got a reputation for protecting women's interests, especially when there are significant assets involved. Naomi's hands shook as she lifted the coffee cup. "I do not know if I am ready for divorce attorneys. Baby, whether you are ready or not, you need to protect yourself and those children." Patricia's voice was gentle but firm. "Marcus is showing you exactly who he is. Believe him. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you loved, drop a broken heart emoji in the comments right now. And stay with me, because what Naomi discovers next will blow your mind." That evening, while the twins slept peacefully in their portable cribs, Naomi called her best friend Lauren back in Los Angeles. "I have been waiting for you to figure it out," Lauren said after Naomi explained what had happened. "I did not want to be the one to tell you, but I have seen them together. At that new restaurant downtown, at the coffee shop near his office. She works at one of those high-end fashion boutiques in Beverly Hills. Celeste. Celeste. The woman had a name now, which somehow made it worse. "How long?" Naomi asked. "I first saw them about 4 months ago. But Naomi, the way they were together, it did not look new. 4 months, maybe longer." While Naomi had been struggling with postpartum exhaustion and trying to be the perfect wife and mother, Marcus had been building a whole other life. "There is something else," Lauren continued. "I heard through the grapevine that Marcus has been telling people you two are having problems, that you have been distant since the babies came, like he is already laying the groundwork for the divorce, rewriting history to make you the villain." The betrayal cut deeper than Naomi thought possible. Marcus was not just cheating. He was creating a narrative where she was the bad guy in their story. After she hung up, Naomi went to check on the twins. Camden was sprawled on his back, arms flung wide in complete trust that the world would keep him safe. Charlotte slept curled on her side with her thumb in her mouth, looking exactly like the baby pictures of Naomi that lined Patricia's hallway. These children deserved better than a father who could walk away without a second glance. They deserved security and stability and love that did not come with conditions. Naomi's phone rang. Marcus's name flashed on the screen. For a moment, hope fluttered in her chest. Maybe he was calling to explain. Maybe there was some misunderstanding. "Naomi, I need you to sign some papers when you get back," he said without preamble. "My attorney will email them to you." Papers. Just some business stuff. Separating some assets to protect the company. Nothing that affects you directly. The casual way he said it made alarm bells ring in Naomi's head. What kind of business stuff? Technical things. You would not understand the details. His voice had that patronizing tone he used when he thought she was being difficult. "Just sign them and send them back, okay? I need them processed quickly." He was trying to hide assets. Even in her emotional state, Naomi recognized the maneuver. Marcus thought she was too naive, too trusting, too focused on the children to pay attention to business matters. "I will have my attorney look at them first," she said. There was a pause. "Your attorney, Naomi. There is no need to involve lawyers in business matters. There is no need to ask me to sign papers I do not understand either." Another pause, longer this time. When Marcus spoke again, his voice had an edge she had never heard before. "Fine, but do not take forever. These things are time sensitive." He hung up without saying goodbye. Naomi stared at the phone. Her last illusions about her marriage finally crumbled into dust. Marcus was not just unfaithful. He was trying to cheat her financially too. She walked back to the twins' room and stood watching them sleep. Tomorrow she would meet with Rachel Torres. Tomorrow she would start learning exactly what her rights were and what Marcus was trying to take from her. But tonight, she grieved, not just for her marriage, but for the man she thought she had married, for the father she thought her children had, for the life she thought they were building together. Marcus had made his choice at that airport. Now it was time for Naomi to make hers. Rachel Torres's law office occupied the 20th floor of a sleek downtown Miami building. Naomi felt underdressed in her jeans and simple blouse as she rode the elevator up the next morning. Patricia had insisted on watching the twins, giving Naomi her first child-free hours in months. Rachel herself was nothing like Naomi had expected. Instead of the severe power-suited woman she had imagined, Rachel was warm and approachable. She had graying hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and laugh lines around her eyes that suggested she smiled often. She wore slacks and a blazer, but her manner was more teacher than shark. "Patricia has told me good things about you," Rachel said, gesturing for Naomi to sit in one of the comfortable chairs facing her desk. "And she has told me some not-so-good things about your husband." Naomi had prepared herself to tell the whole story, but Rachel's direct approach made it easier. She explained everything: the airport scene, Marcus's coldness, the mysterious papers he wanted her to sign, the affair that had apparently been going on for months. Rachel took notes on a legal pad, asking clarifying questions that revealed years of experience with similar cases. "The papers he wants you to sign," Rachel said when Naomi finished. "Did his attorney email them yet?" Naomi checked her phone. "Yes. They came in this morning. I printed them, but have not looked at them yet. Good instinct not to sign them. Let us take a look." Rachel spread the documents across her desk. Even Naomi could see they were extensive. Page after page of legal language that made her head spin. "This is what I was afraid of," Rachel said, after several minutes of reading. "Marcus is trying to transfer majority ownership of his company to a trust that he controls exclusively. If you sign this, you would be giving up any claim to the business you helped him build. I helped him build it. Naomi, you have been married for 5 years. In California, that business is community property. You own half of everything he has accumulated during your marriage." Rachel looked up from the papers. These documents would sign away millions of dollars. The number hit Naomi like a physical blow. Millions. Marcus's company is worth approximately $12 million based on the financial statements I am seeing here. There is also real estate, investment accounts, and other assets. Your half of the community property is probably worth close to $6 million. Naomi stared at Rachel, unable to process the number. She had known Marcus was successful, but she had never paid attention to the exact figures. He had handled all the finances, giving her a credit card and a household budget, but never discussing the bigger picture. "He is trying to steal from me," Naomi said, the reality finally sinking in. "That is exactly what he is doing. And the fact that he is pressuring you to sign quickly suggests he is planning to file for divorce soon. He wants these assets protected before you have legal representation." Rachel pulled out another set of papers. "I did some research on your husband's business last night, Naomi. There are some irregularities in his tax filings, possible fraud. If we investigate further, we might find that Marcus has bigger problems than just a messy divorce." The room seemed to spin around Naomi. In 24 hours, her entire life had been turned upside down. Her marriage was over. Her husband was trying to cheat her out of millions. And now there was potential criminal activity. "What do I do?" she asked. "First, you do not sign anything. Second, we file for legal separation immediately to protect your interests. Third, we start gathering evidence of the affair and any financial misconduct." Rachel leaned forward. "Naomi, I need to ask you something important. Do you want to try to save this marriage, or do you want to protect yourself and your children?" The question should have been harder to answer. A day ago, Naomi would have said she wanted to save her marriage. But sitting in that office, learning about Marcus's deception and manipulation, she felt something shift inside her chest. "I want to protect my children," she said firmly. "Good. Because based on what I am seeing here, Marcus is not interested in saving the marriage. He is interested in ending it on his terms with his assets intact and his reputation protected." Rachel walked Naomi through the next steps. They would file for legal separation within the week. They would hire a forensic accountant to examine Marcus's business records. They would document everything about the affair, including the woman's identity and any money Marcus had spent on her. "One more thing," Rachel said as Naomi prepared to leave. Do not let Marcus know you have hired an attorney yet. The longer he thinks you are naive and compliant, the more evidence he might inadvertently give us. Naomi left the law office feeling overwhelmed but also strangely empowered. For the first time in months, she had a plan. She had someone fighting for her interests. Her phone rang as she waited for the elevator. Marcus again. Did you get those papers? He asked. Yes, they are very complicated. I am still reading through them. Naomi, they are just standard business documents. His voice had that edge of impatience. My attorney says wives sign these kinds of things all the time to protect the company from liability issues. The lie rolled off his tongue so easily that Naomi wondered how many other lies she had believed over the years. I want to understand what I am signing, she said carefully. There is nothing to understand. Just sign them and send them back today. I am trying to close a big deal, and these papers are holding everything up. More pressure, more urgency, exactly what Rachel had warned her about. I will get them back to you soon, Naomi said. Today, Naomi, I need them today, soon, she repeated and hung up. Her phone immediately rang again, but this time she did not answer. Marcus called 3 more times during the drive back to her mother's house. Each unanswered call felt like a small victory. Patricia was waiting with lunch and eager questions about the meeting. Marcus has been trying to steal from me, Naomi said without preamble. Millions of dollars, and there might be tax fraud involved. Patricia set down her coffee cup hard enough to rattle the saucer. That son of a... She caught herself, glancing toward the twins' playpen. What is Rachel's plan? Naomi explained everything, while Patricia's expression grew grimmer. You know what this means, do not you? Patricia said when Naomi finished. This affair, these papers, the pressure to sign quickly. Marcus has been planning this for months, maybe longer. He has been systematically setting up your divorce to benefit himself. The calculation behind Marcus's actions was almost worse than the affair itself. At least infidelity could be explained by passion or midlife crisis. But this level of planning, this deliberate effort to impoverish his wife and children, revealed a coldness that chilled Naomi to the bone. The twins deserve better, Naomi said, watching Camden try to feed Charlotte a toy block while she giggled and pushed his hand away. They do, and so do you. Patricia reached across the table and squeezed Naomi's hand. Your father and I went through our rough patches, but he never would have tried to leave me and the children with nothing. That is not what good men do. That afternoon, while the twins napped, Naomi did something she had not done in years. She looked up Marcus's business online, researching his company and his recent deals. What she found made her stomach turn. Marcus's construction company had been accused of cutting corners on multiple projects. There were lawsuits pending from clients who claimed shoddy workmanship. Buried in a Business Journal article, she found a quote from Marcus dismissing the complaints as nuisance suits from people trying to get rich quick. The man she had married would never have spoken about legitimate customer complaints that way. The man she had married had been passionate about quality and integrity in his work. But maybe she had never really known that man at all. Maybe the Marcus she had fallen in love with had been just as much a performance as the loving husband act he had been putting on for months while carrying on his affair. Her phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. Still waiting for those papers. Getting frustrated. Naomi deleted the message without responding. Let him be frustrated. He was about to learn what real frustration felt like when Rachel's legal filing hit his attorney's desk. The war Marcus had started at that airport was about to begin in earnest, and Naomi intended to win. 3 days later, Naomi was back in Los Angeles, armed with Rachel's legal strategy and a new sense of purpose. The house she had shared with Marcus felt different now, like a crime scene she was visiting to gather evidence. Every room held memories that felt tainted by what she now knew. Marcus was still traveling, which gave Naomi the freedom to search without interference. She started in his home office, a space she had rarely entered during their marriage. Marcus had always claimed it was too boring, too cluttered with business papers that would only confuse her. Now she understood why he had really wanted her to stay away. The filing cabinets were locked, but Naomi found the key in the same hiding spot Marcus had used for years, taped under his desk drawer. Some habits never changed. What she found inside made her hands shake. Bank statements for accounts she had never known existed. Credit card bills showing expensive purchases at jewelry stores, high-end restaurants, and luxury hotels. All of it from the past 6 months. All of it clearly not for Naomi or the children. One receipt made her stomach lurch. An $8,000 diamond bracelet from Tiffany, purchased just 2 weeks after the twins' first birthday. While Naomi had been celebrating their children's milestone with homemade cake and budget-friendly toys, Marcus had been buying expensive jewelry for his mistress. But the financial infidelity was just the beginning. Deeper in the files, Naomi found correspondence with offshore banks, account numbers in the Cayman Islands, investment records showing money being moved systematically out of the country. Marcus was not just hiding assets from their divorce. He was hiding them from the government. Naomi photographed everything with her phone, following Rachel's instructions to document but not remove any evidence. The scope of Marcus's deception was breathtaking. He had been planning this for at least a year, maybe longer. Her phone rang, making her jump. Marcus's name flashed on the screen. "Where are my papers?" he demanded without greeting her. "I am still reviewing them with my financial advisor," Naomi said, using the cover story Rachel had suggested. "You do not have a financial advisor." "I do now. After what happened at the airport, I realized I need to better understand our finances." There was a long pause. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was dangerously quiet. "What exactly did you think happened at the airport?" Naomi's heart pounded, but Rachel had coached her for this conversation. "I saw you with another woman, Marcus, carrying her bags, touching her like she was your girlfriend. I am not stupid. Celeste is a business associate. We were traveling to the same conference." The lie came so easily that Naomi almost admired his skill. If she had not seen them together, had not witnessed the intimacy between them, she might have believed it. "Business associates do not usually travel together to romantic destinations," Naomi said, "and they do not usually receive $8,000 bracelets from Tiffany." Another pause. "You had me followed. I did not need to. Your credit card statements tell the whole story. The hotels, the restaurants, the jewelry. Should the first keep going?" The silence stretched so long that Naomi wondered if he had hung up. "We need to talk," Marcus finally said. "Yes, we do. When will you be home?" "Tomorrow night." "And Naomi, do not do anything stupid while I am gone." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Marcus was warning her not to dig too deep, not to upset whatever plan he had in motion. After he hung up, Naomi continued her search with renewed urgency. In Marcus's laptop bag, she found a burner phone she had never seen before. When she turned it on, it was full of text messages between Marcus and Celeste. The messages were intimate, explicit, and dated back 10 months. But more damaging were the ones discussing Naomi and the children. "She is too focused on the babies to notice anything," Marcus had written. "Perfect timing for us." Celeste's response made Naomi's blood boil. Poor thing. Probably thinks she still has a chance at happily ever after. Later messages revealed Marcus's timeline. He planned to file for divorce within the month. After the asset transfers were complete, he had already found an apartment for himself and Celeste. They were discussing vacation plans and future business ventures, as if Naomi and the children were minor obstacles to be managed. The most damaging message was from just 3 days ago. "My lawyer says if Naomi signs the papers this week, we are in the clear. She will get the house and some support, but the real money stays with me." Naomi screenshotted every message, her anger building with each exchange. Marcus was not just cheating, he was actively plotting against her, discussing her like she was a business problem to be solved. That evening, after the twins were asleep, Naomi called Rachel with her findings. "Naomi, this is incredible evidence," Rachel said, after Naomi described the offshore accounts and text messages. "Marcus is not just committing adultery and trying to hide assets. This looks like serious tax fraud. The IRS is going to be very interested in these Cayman Islands accounts." "What does that mean for the divorce?" "It means we have significant leverage. Marcus is facing potential criminal charges. The last thing he wants is this information becoming public record in a messy divorce trial." Rachel explained that they could use Marcus's criminal exposure to negotiate a much better settlement. Instead of fighting for half of Marcus's declared assets, they could demand full disclosure of his hidden wealth and a larger share to ensure the children's security. "But there is something else we need to discuss," Rachel continued. "Marcus is going to know you have been investigating when he realizes you have this information. Things might get ugly." "What do you mean?" "Men like Marcus do not like losing control. When he realizes you are not the naive, dependent wife he thought you were, he might get aggressive. Rachel paused. Not physically, but he might try to cut off your access to money, change locks, things like that. Naomi looked around the house that had been her home for 3 years. Soon it might not be her home anymore. I am stronger than he thinks, she said. I believe that, but we need to move fast. I am going to file our papers tomorrow morning, before Marcus has a chance to implement whatever plan he is working on. After they hung up, Naomi went to check on the twins one more time. Camden was sleeping with his arms around a stuffed elephant Marcus had bought him back when Marcus still pretended to care about being a father. Charlotte clutched a small blanket, her face peaceful in sleep. These children would never know the man Naomi had thought she married. They would grow up knowing the truth about their father, that he was someone who put money and his own desires above their welfare. But they would also grow up knowing their mother was strong enough to protect them, that she was smart enough to fight for their future. That love meant fighting for the people who mattered, not abandoning them for selfish pleasures. Naomi's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop digging, or you will regret it. Her blood ran cold. Marcus was having her watched, or Celeste was. The threat was clear, but instead of fear, Naomi felt a surge of determination. Marcus had underestimated her completely. He thought she was weak, dependent, easily manipulated. Tomorrow, when Rachel's legal papers arrived at his attorney's office, Marcus would learn how wrong he had been. The woman he discarded at that airport was about to become his worst nightmare, and Naomi was going to enjoy every minute of watching his carefully constructed world collapse around him. Comment justice right now. If you think Naomi should expose everything Marcus has done, because what happens next is going to shock you. The legal papers hit Marcus's attorney's office at exactly 9 o'clock the next morning. By 10 o'clock, Naomi's phone was ringing non-stop. She let every call go to voicemail, following Rachel's advice to let Marcus stew in his panic while she gathered more evidence. But first she had a meeting that Marcus knew nothing about. David Chen had been Marcus's business partner for 3 years before they had a falling out 14 months ago. According to the research Naomi had done, David had left Marcus's company citing ethical differences and started his own construction firm. Marcus had always described David as jealous and bitter, but Naomi was beginning to question everything Marcus had ever told her. She found David at a coffee shop near his new office. He was a tall man with graying temples and kind eyes that reminded her of her father. I was wondering when you would reach out, David said after they had ordered coffee. I heard Marcus has been telling people you two are having problems. We are having problems. He has been having an affair, and I found out he has been hiding money offshore. David's expression did not show surprise, which told Naomi everything she needed to know. I am not shocked, David said carefully. Marcus has changed a lot in the past few years. The man I went into business with would not have done those things. What happened between you two? David stirred his coffee for a long moment before answering. Marcus started cutting corners, using cheaper materials, skipping safety inspections, overcharging clients. When I confronted him about it, he said I was being naive, that everyone in the business did it, but you did not believe that. I did not, and I was right. 3 of our former clients are now suing Marcus's company for construction defects. One of them is a family whose deck collapsed during their daughter's birthday party. Thank God no one was seriously hurt, but they could have been killed. Naomi felt sick. The Marcus she had married had been passionate about quality construction, about building things that would last. He had talked about leaving a legacy of buildings that would still be standing in 50 years. There is something else, David continued. Marcus has been using undocumented workers and paying them below minimum wage. When I found out about it, that is when I knew I had to leave the company. The picture of Marcus that was emerging was of a man Naomi did not recognize. Greedy, careless, exploitative. Someone who put profit above people's safety and well-being. David, I need to ask you something, Naomi said. Would you be willing to testify about what you know? My attorney says Marcus's business practices could be evidence of fraud. Naomi, I documented everything before I left the company. David's voice was firm. I have been waiting for someone to ask the right questions. Marcus has been getting away with this for too long. David agreed to meet with Rachel and provide copies of his documentation. As they parted ways, he squeezed Naomi's shoulder. Marcus always said he was lucky to have you, David said. Turns out, you were the one who was unlucky. On the drive home, Naomi's phone finally stopped ringing. Instead, Marcus had switched to text. Call me immediately. We need to talk before this gets out of hand. You are making a mistake that will hurt everyone, including the children. The last text made Naomi's hands clench the steering wheel. Marcus was already trying to use the children as leverage, painting himself as the victim when he was the one who had abandoned his family for another woman. She decided to respond to just one message. I am protecting our children from a father who cares more about money than their welfare. Her phone rang immediately. This time she answered, What the hell do you think you are doing? Marcus's voice was raw with rage. I am making sure Camden and Charlotte have financial security since their father was planning to steal their inheritance. I was not stealing anything. Those were legitimate business transfers to offshore accounts hidden from your wife and the IRS, Julian. And I found everything. The Cayman Islands accounts, the texts with Celeste, the receipts for jewelry you bought her while I was taking care of your children. Silence. Then you went through my private files, your private files in our shared home office, the home office in the house I own half of, filled with records of the business I own half of. Naomi's voice stayed calm, which seemed to infuriate Marcus more. You do not understand business, Naomi. You never have. You are going to destroy everything I have built. I understand fraud. I understand tax evasion. And I understand that you have been planning to divorce me for months while pretending to love me. This is not about love anymore. This is about protecting what I have worked for. The admission hit Naomi like a slap. Marcus had just confirmed that their marriage was over in his mind, that it had been over for a long time. What about what we worked for together? She asked. What about the children we are supposed to protect together? The children will be fine. I am not abandoning them. You already have. You chose Celeste over them at that airport. You chose your hidden money over their future when you tried to get me to sign those papers. Marcus's breathing was audible through the phone. Naomi, you need to stop this legal nonsense and be reasonable. We can work something out privately. The time for working things out privately was before you started cheating and hiding assets. Now, we work things out through lawyers. You are going to regret this. When this gets ugly, when it becomes public, when your children grow up knowing their mother destroyed their father's reputation, you are going to wish you had handled this quietly. Another threat, but this one revealed Marcus's biggest fear. Public exposure. He did not want anyone to know about the affair, the tax fraud, the business corruption. His reputation meant everything to him. My children are going to grow up knowing their mother fought for their rights when their father tried to steal from them, Naomi said. They are going to know I was strong enough to protect them. She hung up before Marcus could respond. That evening, while the twins played in their high chairs, Naomi received an email from Rachel. David Chen had already provided his documentation, and it was even more damaging than expected. Marcus's company was facing potential criminal charges for safety violations, tax evasion, and labor law violations. Marcus is in serious legal trouble beyond the divorce, Rachel wrote. This gives us enormous leverage. He cannot afford a public trial that would expose all of this. We are in a position to demand full financial disclosure and a very generous settlement. Naomi also found a message from an unexpected source. Lauren, her best friend, had been contacted by Celeste. She wanted me to give you a message. Lauren's text read, She says Marcus has told her everything about the divorce, and she wants you to know she is not trying to break up your marriage. She says they are in love, and you should let him go gracefully. The audacity of the message took Naomi's breath away. Celeste actually thought she could send messages through mutual friends, painting herself as the innocent party caught between a loving couple's marital problems. Naomi called Lauren immediately. Please tell me you did not agree to be their messenger, Naomi said. Of course not. I told her exactly what I thought of women who pursue married men with children. But Naomi, she seemed genuinely surprised that you were fighting the divorce. She said Marcus told her you were both unhappy and planning to separate anyway. More lies from Marcus. He had been telling Celeste that Naomi was a willing participant in the divorce, that their marriage had been over for months by mutual agreement. He had painted himself as a man trapped in a loveless marriage rather than a cheating husband who was abandoning his family. Lauren, I need you to do me a favor, Naomi said. If Celeste contacts you again, record the conversation. I want documentation of every lie Marcus has been telling her. Absolutely, Naomi. Lauren's voice was fierce. I am so proud of how you are handling this. The old Naomi would have tried to fix things, would have blamed herself for Marcus's cheating. Lauren was right. The old Naomi would have asked what she had done wrong, how she could be a better wife, whether she could win Marcus back. But finding those text messages, discovering the offshore accounts, learning about Marcus's business corruption had shown her exactly who she was really married to. The man she had loved had never existed. Marcus had been playing a role, and now that he did not need her anymore, he had dropped the mask. That night after the twins were asleep, Naomi sat in the living room that had once felt like home and made a list of everything she wanted from the divorce. Full custody of the children with Marcus paying substantial child support. Half of all marital assets, including the hidden offshore accounts. Spousal support that would allow her to rebuild her career. The house so the children could have stability. Full college funds for Camden and Charlotte. Most importantly, she wanted Marcus to face consequences for his crimes. The tax evasion, the business fraud, the exploitation of workers, all of it needed to be exposed. Marcus thought he could discard her like yesterday's newspaper and walk away with his fortune intact. He thought she was too weak, too dependent, too focused on the children to fight back. He was about to learn that broken things could still be dangerous. The next 6 weeks were a masterclass in legal warfare. While Marcus believed he could control the narrative, Rachel systematically dismantled every defense he tried to build. Asset discovery revealed the full extent of Marcus's deception. Not just the 2 properties Naomi had found, but 4 properties total. A condo in San Diego where Celeste had been staying, a house in Portland listed as a business expense, a vacation property in Scottsdale, a commercial building in downtown Los Angeles. He also had cryptocurrency holdings he had never mentioned, investment accounts in his name only, a pension fund he had tried to shield from community property laws. He has been planning this for at least 18 months. Rachel told Naomi during one of their strategy sessions. The cryptocurrency purchases started right around the time the twins were born. He was systematically moving money into assets you could not easily trace. 18 months. He had been planning to leave her while she was still recovering from childbirth, still struggling with postpartum depression, still trying to figure out how to be a mother to 2 babies at once. The calculation behind Marcus's actions was staggering. Which works in our favor, Rachel continued. California courts take a very dim view of financial deception, especially when one spouse is dealing with the demands of caring for infant twins. We can argue for more than the standard 50-50 split based on his fraudulent conduct. The depositions were brutal. Marcus sat across from Rachel and Naomi, his expensive attorney beside him, and tried to explain away the offshore accounts and secret properties and massive credit card bills. He claimed the Cayman Islands accounts were for legitimate tax planning. The properties were business investments. The jewelry purchases were client gifts that he had documented incorrectly. Rachel methodically destroyed each lie with evidence. Bank transfers that showed personal use of funds. Text messages discussing the properties as personal assets. Credit card receipts showing jewelry purchased on Valentine's Day and Celeste's birthday. Marcus's face grew redder with each revelation. His attorney kept calling for breaks, clearly trying to regroup as their defense crumbled. But the most dramatic moment came during the 3rd deposition, when Celeste showed up. She sat in the gallery as if she had every right to be there, dressed in designer clothes that Marcus had clearly bought for her, looking young and beautiful and completely unbothered by the chaos she had helped create. During a break, Celeste approached Naomi in the hallway. "I wanted you to know this was not some tawdry affair," she said. Her voice was earnest, like she genuinely believed what she was saying. "Marcus and I genuinely love each other. He was going to tell you about us." Naomi looked at this young woman who had helped destroy her marriage and felt something unexpected. Pity. "He was never going to tell me," Naomi said quietly. "He was going to hide his assets, file for divorce on his terms, and leave me fighting for scraps. You were part of that plan whether you knew it or not." Celeste's perfectly made-up face showed confusion. "That is not true. Marcus said you had become distant, that you barely cared about the marriage anymore. Did he mention he used our joint accounts to buy you a condo?" The confusion deepened. "He said that was from his business that I have a 50% stake in as his wife." Naomi kept her voice gentle. "Did he mention that the trips you took together were billed as business expenses? or that he has been systematically hiding assets to avoid splitting them in the divorce. Watching realization dawn on Celeste's face would have been satisfying if it were not so pathetic. "He said you knew about me," Celeste whispered, "that you had agreed to an amicable separation. He lied to you the same way he lied to me," Naomi said. "The difference is, I was his wife. You are just the woman he used to justify his choices." She walked away before Celeste could respond, leaving the younger woman standing in the courthouse hallway with the expression of someone whose certainties had just shattered. That night, Claudia found Naomi in the guest room of Patricia's house, where she had been staying during the legal proceedings. "Celeste was at the deposition," Naomi said. "The mistress. That takes nerve." She genuinely believed Marcus was leaving an uncaring wife for true love. He had constructed this whole narrative, where I was the villain, and she was saving him from loneliness. "Do you feel bad for her?" "A little, but mostly I feel angry that Marcus gets to write himself as the victim in every story. The husband trapped by his demanding wife. The entrepreneur whose ungrateful spouse is trying to take his hard-earned money. The man in love who just wants to be happy." Patricia joined them, carrying 3 cups of tea. "What story are you writing?" Naomi thought about everything she had survived in the past 2 months. The betrayal, the investigation, the legal battle, the strength it had taken to keep fighting when everything in her wanted to collapse. "I am writing the story of someone who refused to be discarded," she said finally. "Someone who was underestimated and used that to her advantage. Someone whose husband thought she was too weak to fight back and learned he was dead wrong." "That is a much better story," Patricia said. 2 weeks later, Rachel called with news that made Naomi's hands shake. "We have a settlement offer," Rachel said. "And Naomi, it is good." Marcus's attorneys had finally accepted that they could not win at trial. The evidence of fraud was too strong. The offshore accounts, the hidden properties, the business corruption that David Chen had documented. If the case went to trial, Marcus would face not just divorce, but criminal charges. "They are offering you 60% of all marital assets," Rachel explained. "Full custody of the twins with Marcus paying child support of $8,000 per month, spousal support of $5,000 per month for 3 years, the house, and full college funds for the children." Naomi did the math in her head. 60% of $12 million. "You are looking at over $7 million, Rachel said, "plus the ongoing support. Plus, you keep the house, which is worth another $1 million. What about the criminal charges? That is the part I am most proud of." Rachel's voice held satisfaction. "As part of the settlement, Marcus has agreed to cooperate with the IRS investigation. He is going to plead guilty to tax fraud charges with reduced sentencing, 18 months, probation, massive fines, but no jail time." "Why would we agree to that?" "Because the alternative is a messy trial that could take years and cost you hundreds of thousands in legal fees. This way you get your settlement now. Marcus faces consequences for his crimes, and you can move on with your life." Naomi thought about Camden and Charlotte, about giving them stability and security, about not spending the next 3 years in courtrooms watching her marriage dissected in public. "I will take it," she said. The final settlement came through 3 weeks later. Marcus signed the papers with an expression that looked like he had been forced to swallow broken glass. His attorney looked equally defeated. Naomi signed her name with a steady hand. $7.2 million. Full custody. The house. Child support. Spousal support. Everything Marcus had tried to hide, she had found. Everything he had tried to steal, she had taken back. Everything he thought he could get away with had been exposed. Outside the attorney's office, Rachel gave Naomi a hug. "You did it," Rachel said. "You protected yourself and your children. You made sure Marcus faced consequences. You won." Naomi looked down at the settlement papers in her hand. "Won" felt like the wrong word. Her marriage was over. Her children would grow up in a broken home. The man she had loved had turned out to be a stranger, but she had survived. She had fought back. She had refused to be a victim. That felt like something. The first thing Naomi did with the settlement money was buy a house. Not a mansion, not something flashy. A comfortable 4-bedroom in a good school district with a backyard for the twins to play in. She hired a nanny to help with childcare 3 days a week. Not because she could not handle the twins alone, but because she needed time to rebuild her career. She had been a successful interior designer before the twins were born. Before Marcus had convinced her to stay home and focus on being a mother, now she started taking clients again. Small projects, at first, a bedroom redesign, a kitchen renovation, but word spread quickly. Naomi Richardson was back and better than ever. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Naomi's design business was thriving. She had hired 2 assistants and was billing 6 figures annually. The twins were in an excellent preschool program. They were happy, healthy, and showed no signs of trauma from their father's absence. Because Marcus had made himself absent, he used his visitation time maybe once a month, always cutting it short because of work obligations. He sent child support payments on time because the court would garnish his wages if he did not. But he showed no real interest in being a father. Camden and Charlotte would ask about Daddy sometimes. Naomi would show them pictures and tell them Daddy loved them, but was very busy with work. She did not badmouth Marcus to the children. She did not need to. His absence spoke louder than any words. Marcus's life had taken a very different trajectory. The IRS criminal charges had resulted in 18 months of probation and fines totaling over $2 million. His business had dissolved under the weight of lawsuits from clients whose buildings had been shoddily constructed. He had filed for bankruptcy. The man who had once been worth $12 million was now working for a former competitor in a junior project manager role, making maybe $120,000 a year, living in a modest apartment, driving a used car. Celeste had left him within 3 months of the settlement. Apparently, her love had been contingent on Marcus's wealth. She had married someone else 6 months later, a tech entrepreneur 20 years her senior with a house in Malibu and a private jet. Marcus's reputation in the industry was destroyed. Former friends and business partners had cut ties when the criminal charges became public. He had become a cautionary tale, a warning about what happened when you let greed override ethics. Naomi heard all this through Lauren and other mutual acquaintances. She felt no satisfaction in Marcus's downfall, no vindication, just a quiet certainty that consequences had found the right person. One Saturday afternoon, Naomi was at the airport with the twins. They were flying to Miami to visit Patricia. She had booked first-class tickets because she could afford it now, and because traveling with toddlers and coach was its own special hell. As they walked through the terminal, Camden holding one hand and Charlotte the other, Naomi saw him. Marcus stood near baggage claim with an older man in an expensive suit. They were clearly having a business meeting of some kind. Marcus looked older than she remembered. Thinner, there were lines around his eyes that had not been there a year ago. Stress lines. He saw her. At the same moment, she saw him. Their eyes met across the crowded terminal. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. Then Marcus started walking toward her. The older man he had been talking to looked confused but did not follow. Naomi stood her ground. The twins pressed against her legs. "Naomi," Marcus said when he reached her, "you look good." "Thank you." The twins have gotten so big. They are almost 3 now. An awkward pause. Marcus seemed to be struggling for words. "I hear your business is doing well," he finally said. "It is. We just landed a contract to redesign a hotel in Santa Monica." "That is great. Really great." Another pause. Naomi had nothing to say to this man. He was a stranger who happened to share DNA with her children. "Look, Naomi." Marcus's voice dropped lower. "I wanted to say I am sorry. For everything. The affair. The money. All of it. I was not thinking clearly." Naomi looked at him for a long moment. She could accept his apology. She could say she forgave him. She could try to be gracious. But why should she make this easier for him? "You are sorry you got caught," she said quietly. "You are sorry you faced consequences, but you are not sorry you did it. If I had signed those papers, if I had not hired Rachel, you would have walked away with millions while I struggled to support our children." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I would not have left you with nothing. You would have left me with whatever you thought you could get away with." Naomi felt no anger, just clarity. "You planned this for over a year, Marcus. You moved money. You bought properties. You built a whole secret life. That is not a mistake. That is not thinking unclearly. That is calculated betrayal." The twins were getting restless. Charlotte tugged on Naomi's hand. "Mama, plane." "I need to go," Naomi said. "We have a flight to catch." "Can I see them?" Marcus looked at the twins with something that might have been regret. "It has been a few weeks." You are welcome to use your court-ordered visitation time. Have your attorney call my attorney to schedule it. Naomi. There was pleading in his voice now. They are my kids too. Then act like their father. Show up for your scheduled visits. Pay attention when you have them. Be present. Be honest. Be the man you pretended to be when we got married. She walked away before he could respond, guiding the twins toward their gate. She did not look back. On the plane, Camden and Charlotte colored in their activity books, while Naomi looked out the window at the clouds below. She thought about the woman she had been a year ago, standing in this same airport, watching her husband carry another woman's bags, feeling like her world was ending. That woman had been terrified, heartbroken, lost. The woman she was now had rebuilt her life from the ground up, had fought for her rights, and won, had created a successful business and a stable home for her children, had learned that she was stronger than she ever knew. Her phone buzzed with a text, a number she did not recognize at first. Then she remembered Vincent, a contractor she had met on her last hotel redesign project. He had asked her to coffee. She had said maybe. She texted back, "Coffee sounds good. Friday at 2. It was not a date. Not really. Just coffee with someone who made her laugh. Someone who asked about her work and listened to the answers. Someone who had not tried to steal from her or betray her or treat her like she was disposable. Baby steps. The twins fell asleep halfway through the flight, their heads resting against Naomi's shoulders. She sat between them, feeling their warm weight, and thought about everything they had survived together. They would be okay. All three of them. They were already okay. And Marcus would have to live with his choices, with the relationships he had destroyed, and the reputation he had ruined, and the children he barely knew. That was consequence enough. 1 year after the divorce was finalized, Naomi was featured in a magazine article titled, "From Betrayal to Business: How One Mother Rebuilt After Divorce." The article detailed her journey from stay-at-home mom to successful designer. It talked about her signature style that blended comfort and elegance. It mentioned her growing client list and her 2 assistants and her plans to expand. It did not mention Marcus by name. The article referred to him only as her ex-husband, who had hidden assets and committed fraud. A cautionary tale about the importance of financial literacy in marriage. The article went viral in circles of divorced women and single mothers. Naomi started getting emails from women in similar situations asking for advice. She started volunteering at a women's center, helping newly divorced women navigate the financial and legal complexities of ending a marriage. She taught workshops on protecting your assets and recognizing red flags and documenting everything. She became an advocate, a voice for women who had been betrayed and discarded and told they were not strong enough to fight back. Her business continued to grow. She hired 2 more designers, opened a small office, started taking on commercial projects in addition to residential. She dated Vincent casually for a few months before they both acknowledged it was not going anywhere romantic, but they remained friends. He referred clients to her. She recommended him for contractor jobs. She went on a few other dates, some good, some terrible, all of them teaching her more about what she wanted and what she would not tolerate. She was in no hurry. She had her children, her business, her independence. Romance could wait until she found someone worth the risk. The twins thrived. Camden was outgoing and energetic, already showing interest in sports. Charlotte was quieter, more artistic, spending hours with crayons and paper creating elaborate drawings. They asked about their father less and less. Marcus's sporadic visits had dwindled to maybe once every 2 months. He always had excuses. Work was busy. He was traveling. He was dealing with legal issues. Naomi stopped making excuses for him. When the twins asked where Daddy was, she told them the truth in age-appropriate terms. Daddy is busy with work. Daddy is not very good at making time for the people he loves. Daddy made some bad choices and is dealing with the consequences. She would not lie to protect Marcus's image, but she also would not poison the twins against him. That was his job, and he was doing it quite well on his own. Patricia visited often, flying out from Miami or having Naomi and the twins come to her. She was the stable grandparent presence the children needed, the one who showed up for birthdays and holidays and random Tuesday afternoons just because. Lauren remained Naomi's closest friend, the one who had stood by her through the worst of the divorce. They had wine nights where they laughed about terrible dates and complained about demanding clients and celebrated small victories. Simone, who had handled the legal aspects of the divorce so brilliantly, became another close friend. They met for lunch once a month to catch up. Simone kept Naomi updated on Marcus's legal troubles, which continued to multiply. He was currently being sued by 3 former clients for construction defects. The undocumented workers he had employed were part of a Labor Department investigation. His former business partner, David Chen, had filed a civil suit for breach of contract. Marcus had created a web of consequences that he would be untangling for years. Meanwhile, Naomi's life got better and better. On the twins' 3rd birthday, Naomi threw a party in the backyard of her new house. Patricia flew out. Lauren came with her kids. Simone brought her family. Other friends and their children filled the yard with laughter and chaos. Naomi had invited Marcus. For the children's sake. He had said he would try to make it, but could not promise anything. He did not show up. Camden and Charlotte did not seem to notice. They were too busy with cake and presents and games with their friends. As the sun set and the party wound down, Naomi stood on her back porch watching the twins play in the yard. Charlotte was showing Camden her new art supplies. He was making a mess with finger paints, and she was giggling at his rainbow-colored hands. Vincent appeared beside her, holding a beer he had grabbed from the cooler. "You did good," he said, nodding toward the twins. "Thank you. I mean it. After everything you went through, you could have fallen apart. Instead, you built this." He gestured around at the house, the party, the life she had created. "I did not have a choice. I had 2 kids depending on me. You had a choice. You could have let Marcus's betrayal define you. You chose to let it refine you instead." The words settled into Naomi's chest, warm and true. She had been refined by fire, tested and tempered, and made stronger. The woman Marcus had betrayed at the airport a year and a half ago did not exist anymore. She had been transformed into someone fiercer, wiser, more resilient. Someone who knew her worth was not determined by whether her husband chose to honor his vows. Someone who understood that being betrayed did not make her a victim. It made her a survivor. Patricia joined them on the porch, slipping an arm around Naomi's waist. "What are you thinking about, baby girl? How far we have come. You have come so far." Patricia squeezed her tight. "That man tried to destroy you, and you turned around and built an empire. I would not call it an empire. Give it time." Patricia's voice held absolute conviction. "You are just getting started." And she was right. Naomi was just getting started. On her business, on her new life, on showing her children what strength looked like, on proving that the worst thing that ever happened to you did not have to be the end of your story. It could be the beginning of something better. 2 years after that day at the airport, Naomi stood in the same terminal. She was traveling with the twins to a design conference in New York where she was a featured speaker. The conference had invited her to talk about building a business as a single mother, about overcoming adversity, about turning betrayal into fuel for success. She had almost said no. Public speaking terrified her. But then she thought about all the women who had reached out after the magazine article, all the emails from people who said her story gave them courage to leave bad marriages or start businesses or fight for what they deserved. If her story could help someone else, she had to share it. As they walked through the terminal, first-class tickets in hand, Naomi saw a woman near the check-in counter. She looked young, maybe mid-20s. She was crying, while a man stood beside her looking annoyed and impatient. The body language was achingly familiar, the way the man kept checking his watch, the way the woman was trying to explain something through tears, the way he looked at her like she was an inconvenience. Naomi watched for a moment, her instincts screaming that this woman was in trouble. She approached carefully, the twins holding her hands. "Excuse me," Naomi said to the woman. "Are you okay?" The man glared at her. "This is a private conversation. I was not talking to you." Naomi kept her eyes on the woman. "Are you safe?" The woman looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I am fine. We are just having a disagreement." But her eyes said something different. Her eyes said, "Please help me." Naomi pulled a business card from her purse. "My name is Naomi Richardson. I am an interior designer, but I also volunteer at the Women's Center downtown. If you ever need help, resources, or just someone to talk to, call that number." The man tried to intervene, reaching for the card. She does not need your card." Naomi held it out of his reach and placed it directly in the woman's hand. "You deserve to be treated with respect. You deserve honesty. You deserve better than this." The woman's fingers closed around the card. "Thank you," she whispered. Naomi walked away with the twins, feeling the man's angry stare on her back. "Who was that lady?" Charlotte asked. "Someone who needed to know she is strong enough to save herself." 3 weeks later, Naomi received a call from the Women's Center. A young woman had come in, asking for Naomi specifically. She had a business card. She needed help leaving an abusive relationship. It was the woman from the airport. Naomi spent hours with her that day, connecting her with resources and lawyers and support systems. She shared her own story of betrayal and survival. She held the woman's hand while she cried. A month later, the woman sent Naomi a thank you card. She had left the abusive boyfriend. She had moved in with family. She was starting therapy. She was rebuilding. Because Naomi had stopped and offered a business card and reminded her that she deserved better. This became part of Naomi's mission, helping other women, sharing her story, being the voice that said you are stronger than you know, and you deserve better, and you can survive this. The speaking engagement in New York went well. Naomi told her story to a room full of entrepreneurs and designers and people building businesses against the odds. She talked about the airport, about the offshore accounts, about finding the strength to fight back. She talked about Marcus's fall and her rise, about how betrayal had forced her to discover capabilities she never knew she had. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, women lined up to talk to her, to share their own stories, to thank her for her honesty, to ask for advice. Naomi stayed for 2 hours after her scheduled talk, listening to story after story of women who had been betrayed and survived, women who had built businesses from nothing, women who had protected their children and rebuilt their lives and refused to be destroyed. She was part of something bigger than herself, a community of survivors who refused to stay silent. Flying home that night, the twins asleep against her shoulders, Naomi thought about how different her life looked now compared to 2 years ago. She had lost a husband who never really valued her, but she had gained herself, her strength, her independence, her voice. She had built a business that was projected to gross over $1 million that year. She had a beautiful home, healthy, happy children, a community of friends and supporters. She had peace. And Marcus had lost everything that mattered. His business, his reputation, his family, his wealth. He had gained exactly what he deserved. Consequences. If you made it this far, you are part of the family. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in Naomi's shoes. Would you have confronted Marcus at the airport or waited to gather evidence first? Share this video with someone who needs to hear that betrayal does not have to mean defeat, that being underestimated can be your greatest weapon, that you are stronger than you know. Until next time, this is Mr. Black Love Drama TV, reminding you that your story is not over. It is just beginning a new chapter. And sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is exactly what you need to become who you were always meant to be. Naomi learned that lesson in an airport terminal 2 years ago, when she watched her husband carry another woman's bags and realized her marriage was over. She thought it was an ending. It was actually a beginning, the beginning of the rest of her life.